Okay, Mike Thompson Sr. has his hand up.
Sometimes the legal arguments and the theoretical will be brought down to a personal level and maybe appreciate it more. A little bit more than a year ago, thanks to some very top medical expertise and a lot of prayer, one of our speakers tonight is able to join us. That's Gil Davis, who walked out of the hospital where a lot of people were worried that he wasn't going to. And my question to Gil is, under this law, if it is implemented, would you have gotten the care that you needed, or would you not have? Is that a real concern, and do we have a walking example tonight of what may no longer be available to us?
Well, okay.
And we're glad you're with us.
Well, me too. And I won't burden you about that story, but it was a miraculous intervention of the Holy Spirit. And you know, since I had 40 over 20 blood pressure, and I lost my kidneys, my liver, I had a liter of fluid in my lungs and a liter of fluid in my heart, and I was to be dead in an hour. So, and I won't tell you what happened, which was quite remarkable. But anyway, the answer to that is, I think, whether or not there is a limitation of services because of probably money issues, and as you know, the Medicare has had to cough up a whole bunch of money. It's cribbed so that when this thing really gets rolling, there will be money available, and we won't know that we really are spending again down maybe 3 or 4 years, and they expect probably, I'm sure the government thinks that by that time we'll just forget about it, and it'll be a fait accompli. So I think that's probably an issue. I don't know in my circumstance whether it because clearly the doctor said that I would not survive. And even did say to my children, they brought me back with the paddles, but and I remember that. That was impressive. but what they did say is, if this happens again, you probably ought to just let him go, because he'll most likely be brain damaged, and of course I'm already brain damaged, so so it wouldn't make much difference. But there's a possibility that the kind of care that I had that was necessary for me and for others, it becomes so expensive. As you know, the last 6 months to a year in the life of most people, they require a lot of medicine and a lot of things that make it very much a question whether they will get the care or not. That's where I think this thing about killing your grandparents, or remember that there won't be enough money there for them, so that there'll be a rationing of care.
Ron, can I say something real quick about that? The fact of the matter is,
You can't stand in front of this. They will be mad.
Just a real quick thing to point out on that. You don't have to know what kind of care Mr. Davis had. You don't really have to know how expensive it is to look back and say 20 years, if the government had decided that it may be too expensive, they wouldn't have developed that care that saved that gentleman at all. And guess what? His family, and all of you, and me as a doctor, we wouldn't even known that he didn't get the care because it wasn't researched and it wasn't there. So remember that.
It's kind of like when they say, like if we had this great big power pulse, the internet, it's not that you couldn't get on the internet wouldn't exist. So, yeah, there you go.
And just really quickly, knowing Mike Thompson, I think he may be suggesting that you make yourself available to the media down there, Mr. Davis. You go down and tell your story with journalists hanging around waiting.
Well, this is my moment to heap great praise on Gil Davis. I've known him for many years. We were at the Supreme Court together on that fated day.
You were on the street.
Oh yes, Now, Bob Bennett came out of the court and he was pontificating to the reporters, and he turned and looked at the 9 men coming in support of Bill Clinton in trench coats. Yes, there were 9 men in trench coats supporting the president's position. Bob Bennett's expression is burned in my memory. It was a $1 million look of horror at the 9 men that went all over the world. Pictures of men in trench coats supporting the president. Does anyone remember this?
I didn't know that.
Oh, Mike Thompson Sr., of course. Anyway, so Gil Davis was so gracious to come. I asked him yesterday on the spur of the moment. He didn't hesitate, except he didn't know if he could come. But other than that, sure thing. And so we've crossed paths back and forth, and it's always very nice. So I just wanted to thank him for that and recognize his service to our country. Dan Egghead, you have a question,
Yes.
a brief question.
Quick, if the mandate is decided to be repealed, is Obamacare itself likely to be repealed with a severance clause? What do you think?
That's what on Wednesday is 90 minutes trying to decide that. Others probably can say this as well. Typically, there's a clause mandating that. There isn't one. The Supreme Court has to decide: would the remaining statute be so grotesquely different that it was not something that Congress would have passed to begin with? And that's a difficult question. I think the idea, Ken Cuccinelli said most of it will probably fall, some of it might not. But that's a big question. I think most of us think that it can't survive.
No, I'd agree with that. I think the Obamacare overall cannot survive without the mandate. It's the crux of it. It supports the whole construct. And I think it knocks out at least 2 of the 3 pillars of this law if the mandate does not survive. So, and interestingly, Congress, either as oversight or as a tacit admission of this, did not incorporate an anti-severability clause into the legislation. But I don't put it past them to have disregarded the Constitution in its entirety in moving forward. And I think what really animated the Tea Party movement was they saw for the first time how special interests were a feeding frenzy here. And the voice of the American people and those representing limited government were not represented at all in this law. So I think it'll fall. I think the whole thing will fall like a house of cards should the mandate go beyond the Constitution.